But I think it's bait. The Trump team, they apparently had access to this. What did they find? Did they find anything? Apparently they didn't. I think this was all them dangling the keys over here while smacking with their other hand. Ballot harvesting, manipulation through the executive branch of many states. This is what gives Joe Biden the bump. Hatred of Trump, obviously. And then you had the mass ballot harvesting operation. You had the ground activists. You had COVID lockdown. People were guaranteed to be locked in their houses. You told them they couldn't leave. And then when Trump's team are shocked to find out what happened, they distract all the conservatives, Republicans, and sabotage the Georgia Senate race by screaming fraud. Trump comes out, screams fraud, convinces his voters not to vote in the Senate race, giving the Democrats the Senate. Absolutely remarkable. And then when they go down and investigate it, what do they find? Nothing.
Well, this makes me remember some of the January 6th trespassers, I put in quotes, some of the people that were let in. So if a police officer says you're allowed to come in and they open the door for you and you walk in and they go, you're trespassing now, and they arrest you.
You've breached the Capitol, you might say.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think the cop is the one that committed the crime in that case by misleading the person. So this,
right. I guess that would be entrapment.
Yeah, it seems like
inducing someone to
entrapment.
commit a crime that they would not normally commit, like telling them they're free to come in the building. And then when they do, you say, now you're under arrest. You're being criminally charged.
And whether or not you say, come on in, if you open a door, I mean, if you're a police, I don't know how that works. If you're a police officer at a locked door and you open it and stand aside, are you letting them in, or are you just neutralizing yourself and removing yourself from the situation?
But like you're taking an action to open door that is already closed. Like you are going from keeping a building secure and locked to being like, I'm going to open it. And then I don't know, we'll see what happens. Like, of course, people are going to walk in, especially if you're standing there like, yeah, it's fine that this door is open.
So that's this person here, what was the name again? Fright, something like that. They're the one that opened the door. So I don't
Hampton.
know.
Kathy Latham apparently opened the door.
Oh, man.
This is amazing.
It's a terrible day for Kathy Latham, I'm sure.
Well, I think she already got fired, but I'll tell you, man, you know, I talk to people about stuff like this all the time, and you get a mixed bag of responses. Some people say this is normal. And I'm like, normal? They're like, yeah, stuff like this happens all the time. The civil rights era was crazy. And I'm like, dude, they're arresting their political opponents. It's happening in real time. This has never happened before.
And they're shielding the other one. They're like Hunter Biden stuff. This is so crazy. Like
it's the empire. It's a communist revolution.
Like Nixon with Watergate, he resigned, but then they just pardoned him. Gerald Ford pardoned him. So it wasn't like, I don't know if that's the plan here too. Maybe that's the plan here. They want Trump out, then they're going to pardon him and move on.
Here's the question.
Pardon Trump. They've been working too hard for this.
Well, they don't want to be president, but they don't want a revolution.
Yeah, they want to. That's the thing. Like they're not going to go too. If they were doing something like this, they're not going to go too crazy with it, because then all of a sudden the people that they want to control are going to be a lot harder to control.
So here's what we're looking at. Is this a period of political turmoil which we'll get through and we'll forget about? Then it'll be listed as the Trump era in history, and there'll be some minor conversations about it, and we'll all forget about it. I don't think so. Is this the beginning of a civil war, a cold civil war, or active civil war? Perhaps. Is this the beginning of a revolution? Perhaps. It really just depends on what ends up happening politically. It could be a politically tumultuous time, which I hope for, in that Donald Trump gets elected, he fires, arrests people, criminal charges against these corrupt individuals. We see things like that. If Trump gets elected, you know, this DA is probably getting charged under a seditious conspiracy. Trump's going to get a DA who's going to go in and be like, New York, Florida, like DC, Florida, Georgia, these places where they were indicting Trump, you are being investigated for a seditious conspiracy against the United States for trying to jail a political rival. The question I have is, what does this become? If in 100 years, communist revolution is what happens, it will not say in the history books, communist revolution. The news articles from the day will not read of communist revolution. The Wikipedia entries won't. It will simply say that Trump was a fascist who tried to take over the country, and he was stopped by a group of heroes. They'll make movies about a ragtag band of dissenters who work together to stop Trump from stealing the election, and they'll call it the shadow campaign. And then they'll write in the history books about how they'll have a video where Trump is sitting at a desk and he's like, I want the systems hacked. Go in now. And then there's going to be some guys breaking the door and cracking in, an election official going, come on. And then they're going to go up and they're going to stick a USB into a computer and go, whoa, that's what the biopics will all show. All the historical era pieces, or it's Civil War. In which case, It eventually breaks out into fighting, dissolution, fracturing of government facilities, various factions fight. I had a friend ask me today, he said, when the news came out about Georgia indicting Trump, I was like, this is insane. This is like Civil War era stuff. I don't even think during the Civil War that it got as bad. There was threats of jailing a Supreme Court justice. I don't think Blinken actually did. And now you have Biden trying to jail Trump. My friend's like, there's not going to be a civil war. Who's going to fight? A bunch of Trump supporters? And then I said, how many people fought in the American Revolution? Do you guys know?
No idea.
As the story
of the
goes,
population or
it's like 3%. It may actually have been quite a bit more than that, but very, very small. How many factions were there in the Syrian civil war? There were a dozen plus different factions. Like, people seem to think that civil war means some Trump supporter will come out, file legislation, and say, we hereby declare we are in civil war. Bang. Like, that's how it ever worked. The crazy thing is, in the actual Civil War, after the first Battle of Bull Run, okay, so this is the crazy thing. The Battle of Fort Sumter, they say this is the start of the Civil War. Only one guy died, and by accident, because they didn't think there was actually a civil war. Then you get the first Battle of Bull Run. What was it, Manassas or something? They did not even think there was a civil war at that time when we were talking about the second fight in the Civil War. And people were picnicking and laughing. Yeah. And when the fighting broke out, people panicked and fled. And when the Confederacy won, they still did not believe they were in a civil war, so they refused to march on Washington. Wow. The Confederacy could have just won instantly by marching into Washington after they won the first time.